All right, welcome to the session on robotic process automation, RPA, also referred to as digital workers. My name is Dorothee Baas. I am with Stant. We are an automotive company. We have an office right here in Rochester Hills. We make thermal and vapor management products like oil caps, filler pipes, thermostats, gas caps, things like that. We have a pretty diverse customer base. 80% of our business is with the normal OEMs, but then we have about 10% for aftermarket and industrial customers. We are a global company. We're not that big, maybe 1,300 people globally, but we have production facilities in China, Europe, Mexico, and the United States. So quick show of hands, who is already actively using RPA or is implementing that right now? Okay, and who's just here to kind of check it out, see what all the talk is about? Okay, excellent. So I was where you were sitting about a year and a half ago. I was forced to attend a conference. I thought it was a fad. I wasn't very receptive. I thought, okay, there's no gimmick in this world that can just help me solve my problem that just doesn't exist. So here I am a year and a half later telling you all about Body McBot Face. You can follow Body on LinkedIn, by the way. So these are some things that we have automated with RPA, 3 major processes. The first one that we started with, which was the biggest one, was our Accounts Payable 3-way matching process. Do I have any Accounts Payable finance people in the room? Okay. This one is actually quite complex. It is matching invoices, PDF invoices that we get from our supply base with the receipt that we have in our ERP systems. It's doing it across 2 ERP systems, runs every day. We have 5 locations live on this, and we've processed about 11,000 invoices so far. This one got us our ROI, so we have about a $50,000 savings on this bot alone without utilizing any other capacity that we have with the software right now. The second thing we looked at was emailing customer invoices to the customer if they still require an email PDF or printing it on a printer. And the third one that just went live about 6 weeks ago is our purchase order bot, which is emailing the purchase orders in a PDF format to our supplier. So this is an overview. We're going to talk about all of these in our journey in detail. So how do we start? Why am I standing here today? In our Accounts Payable department, we had quite some chaos going on. We had a high turnover with our temporary workforce. We had more temps than actual employees trying to match all these invoices and pay our suppliers. There's 2 ERP systems involved, high learning curve, and if we did have any kind of monitoring tools or analytics available, people wouldn't follow the correct process, so the tools were useless. We couldn't measure anything. And in the end, the problem was we had a huge amount of backlog for our invoices. We had invoices due we didn't even know existed. They were on someone's desk somewhere. They weren't even in the system because they've been sitting there for 4 weeks. We didn't know where all these invoices were. Now, of course, everything is critical. Suppliers are asking where their money is. We didn't even know they sent us an invoice. It was not good times at all. So we used the Band-Aid approach of just trying to get invoices into the system, right or wrong. We had no time to do any root cause analysis. And in the end, we had a very high risk of delaying our suppliers for payment. They made me put this on here. In reality, we did not pay suppliers, right? That's the reality. We couldn't pay them because we didn't know where the invoices were or they were not matched. And our financial reporting was wrong. So all this is going on. And our CFO says, okay, I'm done. AP is getting outsourced. And my CIO came into my office and said, hey, this whole outsourcing thing that you need to organize now, what if I give you a magic button that just poof matches these invoices by itself, and then you don't have to do it anymore. And I looked at him, I said, okay, haha, you being funny, I'm trying to solve a problem here. I need to figure out how to fix this and outsource an entire department. Get out. So I threw him out of my office, true story. He came back a day later with our now implementation partner. They walked me through RPA, what it is, what it can do, and just asked me, give it a chance. Let's just scope something out. Let's see if this would actually be the solution to fix this. So that is how our journey started. So from these initial discussions in March of last year to having a 3-day workshop between the Accounts Payable team, myself, and then our partner that we had us help out, to actually going live with our first bots was only 10 weeks. And that included, again, not just the scope and trying to understand what we need to do and where our problems are, it's the actual bot programming, all the logic steps, the testing, getting this whole software up and running, all of that we did in 10 weeks. And I think we could have done this even faster. The reason this took 10 weeks, which may sound pretty quick to you, to me still sounds long, is because, remember, we also had to outsource an entire department at the same time. So it was both. Outsource AP, and see if the bots can help, so we don't need to outsource as much, and we can have some things be done by the bot. There were also some other major projects going on at the time, so this was quite an interesting time back then. And then since really July of last year, we've just perfected this bot to make sure that maybe we found new things that we didn't think through, we didn't have as part of the scope, so we fine-tuned the logic, we wrote more notifications and error handling rules, and we onboarded more and more suppliers. Our initial idea was that we don't need to automate every single invoice that exists in every supplier on this process. We only need to find the ones that send us the most invoices. So we very quickly decided on the scope. It would only be parts suppliers because we have a part number we can match up, not the office supplies or water delivery, suppliers. And we really only need 50 suppliers on this process because they will make up about 80% of the invoices that we're receiving. If we can get 50 on this, that's a big chunk. So that was our approach. So we took a look at our accounts payable process and said, okay, this thing is huge. Accounts payable, every time you ask them, where's your problem? Everything was a problem. Okay, be more specific. They could not articulate really where the issues were. In the end, through these workshops and trying to understand it, we decided, okay, maybe the issue is not so much in the back when we actually pay the supplier. The issue is in the front because we're not fast enough to match the invoices. That's why we're paying late. So we very quickly decided that really what we need to do is to focus on the 3-way match section of this and the issue analysis. So we needed to make sure in the end we understand why it took AP so long to do this process. So this was our focus for this bot. So what does our bot do? There's 4 key areas that he's doing. The first thing is a preparation stage. So we told all of our suppliers, you need to send your invoices, in a PDF format, electronic, to this very specific mailbox. That's the input. Our bot will then log into the mailbox, grab all these PDFs, rename them, send them through an OCR tool, extract the data that we told it, put everything on a massive Excel sheet, and then actually do data validation to say, okay, I was supposed to grab the price. This field is a number, makes sense. Oh, here the price is the word each. That's not a price. I grabbed the wrong thing. Okay, I can't match this. So at the end of this preparation, the bot gave me 2 buckets. One with invoices that it couldn't read, it didn't know what there was, it was missing fields. It put that in one bucket and said, a human needs to look at this. I don't know what to do. And then the other bucket with, okay, I think I have everything I need. I'm now going to proceed to find the receipts in our ERP systems. So then the three-way matching logic began. And every company does this a little bit different. I don't have everything listed on here, but it's trying to find if the invoice was maybe already matched. Maybe this is the second time the supplier sent it to us. Someone already did it. The bot doesn't have to go through the whole steps again. It's trying to look to find the receipt in our system based on a combination of what the supplier name is, the shipper number. It's checking some things like, does the currency match? You're invoicing me in pesos, but my receipt is in dollars. Okay, now I already have a problem. So it's going through these steps. It's comparing the totals of the invoices first. And if it says, you know what, everything matches, like I have the shipper number, it's you want $100, and I say you should be getting $100, then it would override the invoice number, enter some more data, and it's done. It's not gonna go and dig into part number detail. We're just saying, totals match, we're good. It would then send the invoice through our electronic approval workflow and told the workflow, this is okay to pay, and then no human will have ever seen that invoice. Oh, one thing it also does is we have rounding error logic in there. So if we're a penny off, we just decided, you know what, just throw a GL account in there for the penny and move on. We're not going to deal with that. And also it's attaching the PDF document to our internal ERP invoice. So for auditors, love this, because now they can see exactly, okay, this is what the invoice was supposed to be. This is the PDF. And if there are issues, the human now has that invoice right there. We don't need to go and sort through files and try to find something. So the issue analysis, if the totals did not match up, the bot will continue to try to find out what's the problem. So it compares part numbers for price and quantity, and it then tells the workflow, hey, I found pricing issues. The workflow will route it to purchasing. If the bot says, I found quantity issues, the bot will send it to AP to discuss with the receiving team and materials team what's going on. And then we have a I don't even know what's going on bucket that the bot can use if it found multiple issues, or sometimes in our foreign locations we have VAT issues where maybe we didn't add the VAT, but they did, so now the totals don't match, stuff like that. That's another bucket. And then during this entire process, the bot will communicate. So every time it kicks off by itself in the middle of the night, it will send an email to the AP team to say, hey, I started. When it's done, it'll send another email and say, hey, I'm done. Go look at the log files. It has log files that we just store in the network drive where it writes every invoice in. And if it was fine, or if there was an issue, and here's the bucket of invoices I couldn't even attempt to match because I didn't understand what I was doing. So our AP team, when they come in the morning, they just go through the log files. They have all the PDFs nicely saved right next to that, and then they can start investigating. So this was probably the most complicated bot we could have started with. I don't suggest to necessarily start with this, but it's been the big one that's really gotten us our ROI. When we went live with this, and we tested this and tested this, we went live, we let the bot run, it ran, and it didn't match a single invoice. And I thought, what? We did this 15 times. How can it not have matched a single invoice? It's ridiculous. And then it dawned on us, we were now too fast. The supplier had just sent us a shipment. The invoice was sent to the mailbox. 10 minutes later, my bot's trying to find a receipt in our system. It's still on the road. There's no receipt. So we thought, well, great, now we're too fast. That usually doesn't happen. Now what do we do? So we coupled it with a second bot. First bot is going to say, okay, I didn't find anything. Maybe it's a timing problem, and it's going to hand it over to bot number 2. Bot number 2's job is to just retry finding that receipt day after day after day for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, that bot, if it still hasn't found anything matching, will alert a human and say, I don't know, either we don't have the right information and that's why I can't find this, or it fell off a truck, or someone may want to investigate. But those two bots now work hand in hand to process all of our invoices. So as a direct result, we significantly reduced our invoice backlog for sure. Most of these invoices, the bot grabs out of the mailbox. Our AP department doesn't even see it. We did reduce our temporary workforce during the outsourcing process. And if the bot can find a receipt, we have about an 80% straight-through processing, which means humans are not involved at all. We have no data entry errors, and we have great analytical tools now. So what you see here, and I don't have a pointer, but in the middle here, the bars, the yellow is what the bot's been matching month over month versus the blue, which is our AP team, versus the red, which is our outsourced team. So you can see it's increasing because we're trying to throw more work at it. On the bottom is in green, there were no issues, or there's a bucket for pricing issues, a bucket for quantity issues. So for the first time now, we have analytics to even understand what our problems were that the humans had to face, right? And on the right side, I now have for every supplier who's aligned here, I have my bucket breakdown from the last month. So the first supplier is 98% okay to pay. Great, I'm not even gonna investigate the 2%. Some fluke happened, I don't care. This guy here, 100% pricing issues, purchasing, what are you doing about it? So now I have an actionable list to go talk to people and to fix it so we get greener. So this was a great addition that we did not have before. So what were some of the hurdles and the lessons that we've learned? The first one was who you're talking to, right? Hey, do you always do this in accounts payable? Yes, we do this exactly this way everywhere. And then you find out that's not actually true. Your European location has a completely different matching process. And we didn't necessarily talk to the right people. We talked to the managers who think they know what their people are doing, only to find out they don't always know what their people are doing. So talk to the right people, the people that actually go through the process. The other one was scope creep. Now, this is always a problem everywhere, right? Oh yeah, everything is the same except, oh, can we do this? Can the bot bring me coffee in the morning? I wish. Cannot do that. We had to deal with inaccurate master data. So maybe your bot logic is based on fields in your ERP system to make a decision. If this supplier is X, go this path. If this supplier is marked this way, go this path. If that value is wrong, the bot is going to do the wrong thing. Now, maybe the human said, oh yeah, I remember, it's actually the opposite of what the system tells me. That's great. The bot's not going to be able to remember this. So you need to make sure that whatever your fields are in your ERP system that you use for the bot logic, that they are accurate. We also struggle a little bit with our skill set internally. So we created all these bots, we documented them, we handed them to the business and said, here you go, you monitor them, you supervise them. You get emails every morning. If you didn't get an email, probably something is wrong. You may want to come to us and IT will look at it. That didn't happen. People didn't look at the log files. People didn't look that there was no email sent. And we had a bot not run for 3 weeks and no one noticed. That's not good. So these bots need to be treated just like your team members. They need to be supervised to some level. If your employee doesn't show up for work, are you going to figure that out 3 weeks later? Or do you know that day that something is wrong, right? So there is some level where you just need to be aware of what's going on and make sure that the team that is including this bot is actually doing the steps to supervise it. The biggest issue we had was with compliance of what the information that our suppliers are sending us. We completely underestimated this. This is very specific to accounts payable processes. Not only is every invoice format different, so where the fields are that we need is different. We knew that. We finally then figured out that they're not even telling us what they need to tell us. They're not telling us what purchase order they're shipping under. They're telling us, oh, this is for shipper number 123, but in our system, they put ABC. A human doesn't know either. What are you invoicing us? We don't have a clue. We had PO numbers that were like closed 3 years ago. Why are you still sending us invoices for that? You mean the new PO number? The supplier never updated their system. So this is probably still our biggest pain point, not the bot, this. And trying to convince the suppliers to get their information correct and tell us the correct information, that's something that we still struggle with some of them. Also, expectations. What was the expectation here? In this case, it was very clear. It was ROI, we needed to save money, they were going to outsource. But that doesn't always have to be the expectation. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are you even trying to do on this journey? A lot of people think, well, I need to save money and I need to lay people off. No, not necessarily. That could be one of your drivers, but you really have 5. Are you trying to run your processes faster? Maybe you're just trying to make a human happier. Maybe you just want to take that 3 hours a day where someone pushes a button away from them so that they can strategize and do things that are just better for the company. That doesn't mean that person's going to lose their job. That may mean that they can go home at 5 for a change, or that they're actually going to be happier at work. Other things, maybe it's just the consistency things. You don't want no variations, or it needs to be auditable. That's great. That's a great expectation as well. And then once you're clear, and this could be different for every bot, what your expectation is, you need to figure out how to measure it. Because the first thing your executive is going to ask you after a few weeks is, well, how's it going? I don't know, it's doing stuff. It's not a good answer. So how are you going to measure it? Are you measuring it with ROI or cost savings? Or maybe you're just measuring it with people walking across the company being all excited and telling everyone that this was a great addition to help them out. What are some of the metrics that you want to implement? So make sure you know this stuff up front, or at least have an idea. There's nothing worse than you being all proud of your bot because it made Bob happy, and then your manager saying, okay, can we lay off Bob now? Was that the expectation? Because then we were not on the same page. So make sure that is clear and use a balanced approach. Every scenario is going to be different and every bot's going to be different. In our case, we got the ROI from our first bot. Everything else we're adding now, we're not paying a single dollar more. It's just sugar on top. So we took all this and said, okay, how can we scale this to build a center of excellence? Because it can't just be me, myself, and I doing a bot with an external partner who's going to actually put some standards in place or talk with the business on what they want. And typically, you have 2 sets of people. You have your business process owners, who are the people that's in your business that understand what they're trying to accomplish. They understand their global processes, and they should understand where the pain points are. And then on the other side, you have typically the IT organization, and they're the data architects and analysts. They have a more analytical mindset. They may or may not understand the business process. So where should this reside? Is it the business or is it IT? And my message to you is, because this is a discussion in every single conference I'm in, it doesn't matter. You need to find the right people and put them in a group together. It doesn't matter if they sit under the IT umbrella or if they sit in the business function. That does not matter. It's about the people and what they can do. So what we did is we said, fine, we're going to actually house under our CIO, we're going to house a department called Business Process Integration Management. And it is their responsibility to work with the business side to understand what their pain points are, talk them through, listen in on daily business, and then come up with some ideas on both sides. And then the business process team is going to evaluate what tool set we can use to solve your problem. A bot is not always the right tool to solve a problem. So we actually decline more requests than we implement. One famous thing is someone coming and saying, can your bot go into my one ERP system, run these 15 reports, put everything in Excel, because that takes me like an hour, and then send it to me. And the first question is, why don't we just write you a report that does all that? You don't have to need to run 15 different reports. What are you doing? And then usually it's like, oh, you can do that? Yeah, we can do that. We have a report writer on staff. You can do that. Oh, okay, let's do that. Great. So in that case, a bot is not a tool. Now, if we're talking, you have 5 different ERP systems, okay, then maybe you want to do a bot that can grab all the stuff because our report writer can only operate within the same ERP system in our case. So the other way would be a good use case. So then, under IT, we create the bots, we test them, we run the business through with it, we do all the documentation, and there will never be a bot deployed without proper documentation so that the business will never ever come back and ask a question. They need to be the subject matter experts in this exercise, and more importantly, I want them to troubleshoot the bot, and I want them to monitor and understand and come back to IT if there's an issue. It cannot be, we have maybe 3-4 people in IT that in the end we need to monitor 100 bots. It's not going to be feasible. Plus, I may not know if what the bot is doing in that specific case is right or wrong. The business would. So we made a clear split, and then we also have an external partner that we still work with. If we don't have time in-house to create a bot, or maybe it's more complicated because we're learning, we're going to basically ask them to help us with that and create the bot instead, and then we'll take over. So this is our business model, and it's working very well so far. So now that we have a Center of Excellence in place, what were some other things we did? Well, next was accounts receivable processes. So this sounds very strange maybe, but in our case, our ERP system is not capable to automatically email PDFs, invoices to our customers, or to mass print them at night at a local printer. We've talked about this, we asked, it's not there, okay, fine, I'm gonna have a bot do it. It doesn't sound like rocket science, and it's not, but we've had many issues where people forgot to send it, someone printed it to print it for their files, and then the system says, oh, this was printed, and then the next person thinks, oh, that must mean they sent it to the customer, and then the customer doesn't pay, and that's how that loop goes. So we said, okay, we're done. We're going to have a bot send all of these invoices to the customer every night for all of our global locations. That's where master data was critical because we had a field that said, for this customer, should you email or should you print? And if it says the wrong thing, the bot will do the wrong thing. So it took us 2 months to implement this. And as a result, the bot is sending this out every night or printing it. And we've seen a positive cash flow impact because we don't have as many lost invoices out there where the customer can't or says they didn't get it. Another process was the purchase order delivery process. So here, the challenge was really more administrative. So this was more about taking the administrative work out of that employee's hands and having them refocus on strategy. So here we have an amazing purchase order electronic approval workflow in our ERP system. It is great. Everyone audits, everyone, their mother approves, and all the way at the end, there's 2 things that still need to be done. Someone needs to tell the workflow, okay, thank you, I'm now putting this purchase order on order, so it's an official, legit document. And then you have to take that PDF and email it to the supplier. And that was something that purchasing did every day. Well, we implemented a bot that does those 2 things twice a day for our global locations, and already we're saving 3 days a month just by that. And I was even amazed. I didn't think, really get a value. I mean, how many POs are you sending out? Can't be that many. We only are doing this for our general services POs, not the parts one, because that's usually EDI. But the stuff where we want office supplies or we have a requirement that we need purchase orders for everything we buy, so it's traceable, including budgeted things like rent or electricity or phone bill, so that every time the bills come in, yep, okay, we authorize that. We may not have sent the PO to the phone company because they don't care, but now we can track it internally, how much of the budget was used. Those POs still need to be processed too. They still need to be put on order. So we do about 500 of those a month, or the bot is doing it now. And this was maybe the easiest bot. And purchasing is super happy on this one. Yep, and then in yellow you see, yellow is what the bot's doing. So basically last month it was almost at 100%. Almost. We'll get there. So what is the path to success? And my message to you as you start your journey, or maybe if you're already in the middle of it, your center of excellence, again, don't get hung up on this discussion of IT should own it, the business should own it. Wherever the people fall, that's where it makes sense. You need someone who has an analytical mindset, who knows some project management, who can follow up with people, who can listen to any business function and understand what they're trying to do, and put that in writing, and then maybe work with a partner to develop them or have someone in-house. But you need the key people that can bring that together. Doesn't matter where they sit, as long as you have some standards. Agree on your balanced approach for your success factors. What's the expectation and how are you going to measure it? Make sure you involve the business process owners and the people that are actually doing the work. We like to think in IT sometimes that we know everything and I don't even need to talk to finance because I know what the problems are and here's a bot. No, don't go down that path. Make sure you talk with them to really get the scope right. We got hung up a little bit in the meeting, in the beginning, because we thought we knew what we had to do, only to find out that if we would have listened a little bit more, we could have maybe accomplished this faster or better. Agree on your roles and responsibilities after the bot is done. There was also a pitfall. The bot is done, who's gonna make sure body shows up to work? Is it you? Is it me? Who's gonna do it? So in our one case, the bot did not run for 3 weeks and did not send out a single invoice to our customer. That was a huge cash flow impact for us. That was almost heads rolling at that point. That was millions of dollars. So don't let that happen. Make sure it's clearly understood who owns them. Most importantly, are there any other tools you can do? Bot is not always the answer. If you have, ask your IT analysts, hey, is there something in our ERP system that maybe we can leverage that we just didn't know of exists? Do that. Can you write a report to bring data together? Do that. So just think through all the tools you already have and make RPA part of that tool set. But you need the people to understand all the tools to be able to guide the business in the right direction of what we should do. Make sure you pick processes that are data-based, rules-driven, consistent. Don't try to use RPA to actually fix a broken process. So even in our AP journey, we found out there's a lot of things that we needed to change from a process perspective internally first before the bot would be successful. For example, telling all the suppliers, send your invoices to this mailbox and not Bob, Jim, and Joe, and then we don't know where stuff is. So there were some other things that we did internally that were a prerequisite before you can go in and put in a digital worker. Don't get overwhelmed. We started and we thought we have to automate the entire accounts payable process. And I thought, how, what, when? There's so many pieces. So it's okay to say, you know what, this is my process. I know I can automate this section of it, but then there's a human decision in the middle that I don't know how a bot could do that. I don't have any data, nothing. It needs to be a human making that decision. That's okay. Have the bot do the front. Have the bot tell the human, hey, can you look at this? Human makes the decisions, gives the input to the bot, and the bot continues with the process. That is absolutely okay. So you don't need to try to solve the entire stream. You can have breaks in the middle. And then don't forget about the external factors. Are you really in control? So remember in the beginning I said we were trying to automate 80% of our invoices and we only need 50 suppliers to do that? Well, it's been over a year and we're at 40%. We're at 40% because we underestimated our suppliers' invoice formats and the data they're sending us. That is not in my control. I can't tell them change your invoice formats. That's their ERP system. I may be able to tell them, hey, I need you to fix your stuff, but that may or may not happen. What am I gonna do, really not have them supply me anymore? Probably not. So are you even in control? If you're not in control and you know there's a problem area, you may have a hard time really for any tool, right? So just be aware of those circumstances where you know you may not be able to fix something, and then how do you deal with that? And lastly, humanize your bots. So make them part of a team. We picked a horrible time to do this. As I said, we were gonna outsource. So the idea was, okay, that decision was made, can we outsource less and pay that outsourcing company less money because we have a bot doing some things? That was the idea. What the entire company heard was robots will take over my job. That was not good. And I could stand there and explain it to people, and they nod, and then they go home and tell everyone in their community that we're replacing them with robots. That was not good. It was a horrible time. We did not communicate this well. And in most cases, it's not even that, right? It's you're trying to make life easier to have processes be more efficient. So try to figure out a way to talk about them or integrate them, make them part of a team. So in our case, it's Body Mac Bot Face. That's what my kids named him. So Body Mac Bot Face is the face. There's 50 bots that do stuff. They don't care. It's Body. Body is doing stuff. Body is helping me. Body failed last night. Can you take a look at it? Okay. Body this, Body that. And Body is part of this team now, and it's not this weird software sci-fi thing, like in the Terminator movies. So that has really helped. And now, I have a few people in the business that actually picked up on that and are promoting it then to their other team members. And that's been very helpful because now I have people in the business coming to us just asking like, hey, I heard you do this stuff with purchasing. Like, tell me more about that. Yeah, let's talk. So what's our strategy going forward? It's basically, we started on the left, getting started with one Stant employee, that was myself, and we had a bunch of consultants helping out, getting it set up, and now we're in the middle, year 1 and 2, where we're growing. We're trying to take that ownership over. We've built our center of excellence. We still use our partner, but it's a partnership depending on how urgent things are. And then 2+ years, we want to be self-sufficient with this, and also start looking into the artificial intelligence piece of it. So our vendor is Automation Anywhere. They have an IQ bot that has that artificial intelligence built in that would help us with our OCR PDF reading. We're super interested in that. We just need to have that conversation. So AI is going to probably be the next step for us, and then just getting the business more excited on things that we could be doing. So here's some additional info. I know you can't click into the link from here, but we have 3 videos actually about the 3 bots that I talked about out on YouTube. So they should come up if you just type Stant RPA. If not, then throw words in there like PO delivery or APAR. We also have an Automation Anywhere Stant case study on their website, and then there was a blog post that Deal Architect did with me where it was just like an interview. So this is some additional information if you're interested to check out. And with that, I am opening it up for questions. Any questions? Paul, I don't know who you are. Yes. So as we're designing the bot, we're asking, well, how are we going to measure that this is successful, right? How do we even get to the 3 days a month number? So in this case, we have a data warehouse where we pull some information. In this case, it's which user clicked the button to put this on order status. And we can track that, and it's either the bot user ID or it was not the bot user ID, and then we just count. And then we figure that out. So purchasing is in the review process to help us what they want to measure, and then we'll look in the data sets and see what we have to pull in to do that. Any other questions? Yes.
Are you using Automation Anywhere's analytics?
No. So what you have seen is Power BI, which we use for all of our analytics, just because we've had it before. We even started with RPA, and we already had all that integration built. The Automation Anywhere analytics look more on like time run to do something, but they wouldn't know in my ERP system, because that's stored in the ERP system, who clicked the button. So there's going to be some information that Automation Anywhere analytics wouldn't know about because it's sitting in my ERP system. But in other cases, it could for sure tell you how often does this bot run? Is your queue full? Do you have room to deploy more things? So we're upgrading right now, and then we're going to start using that analytic tool set, but more to understand how many bots we have and where we are capacity-wise. And yes, and it lets you actually translate like 1 minute saved equals this much money, and then it'll start counting. So it does provide things like that. For the more specific things we wanted to understand, like the who clicked the button question, we have to go straight to our ERP system and pull that data. Any other questions? So then let me turn this around, because we have 3 minutes. What processes are you guys thinking about? What are your biggest pain points? Is it anything I've talked about?
E-invoicing in Mexico?
Electronic invoicing in Mexico, yeah. Yeah, so we use a tool called ATEB, which is a software provider. They're not very great to do that, and so that's actually a good point, because we could not deploy these bots with that tool in the middle. So we're now looking into, okay, what can we do to help the Mexican team with that, because that's very administrative. So I just had a discussion about that this week, actually. What else? What is everyone looking at? There were some more hands up. Yes?
We're looking at AP retro pricing.
Okay. Okay. That would probably be a good use case, because you know what it should have been, you know what it was, and it's more of a calculation, report gathering, telling you here's what you need to do kind of bot.
Yeah, we actually went live last month.
Okay, great. How's that going?
We have about a 60% success rate, and then we're finding a lot of things that the business user didn't tell us about. Like a certain pop-up box might come up while they're processing, and the bot didn't know about that, so
Right.
it breaks the bot.
Yes. Do you have your bot send you screenshots when that happens?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So our bot, if it does get stuck, it happens, it'll actually send me a failure email with a screenshot of what it saw. And then yesterday it was 40 client updates. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's going on, I can fix it and be done. And then we're trying to figure out, okay, now how do we have this not happen in the future? But at least with the screenshots, it's been super helpful to even know what does the bot see at the time, because it runs at 2 a.m. when I'm not awake usually. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about your center of excellence? Like, is that separate from your AP and your business departments, and separate from your IT?
Yeah, so we're under the IT umbrella.
Yep.
But we have basically myself, I spend time in IT, I spend time in finance. So I kind of have like the mindset in both areas and understand the business side. And then we have a technical writer that is doing all the documentation for the company and then also for the bots. And then on the IT team specifically, it's the IT analysts who can write queries for like their ERP systems. They understand the ERP systems. And so myself and my one coworker, we're kind of in the middle, under the IT umbrella, but again, I said that doesn't really matter.
That becomes your, sort of, that's your job, is to
Yes,
lead that.
that's my job,
Right. If
correct.
you don't have all the response, you don't have. full
Well, I
control.
do, but
I'm sure
yeah.
you do. As soon as I
Yes.
said that, I'm like, I'm sure you do, but
No.
this is your primary
Yes.
job.
So
My question is kind of, I can't do this, it sounds like I really can't do this off the side of my desk. There's too much to do it in addition to my other job. I need to kind of flip that.
I think in the beginning, it's probably a full-time job. I think after you know what you're doing, you have business process owners who are strong,
Yeah.
right? That you can rely on to tell you and investigate, so you don't have to. I'm not gonna call every location to ask what their AP process is. Like, they need to do that. So if you have strong BPOs in the business and you already have established, we know what we're doing and we have standards in place, every bot has to deal with pop-ups. Every bot machine has to be configured this way. We'll always have documentation. If you have your checklist, then it's gonna get less and less work, right? But in the beginning,
To stand
yes.
it up, you really have to put a committed effort.
Yes, and you need a champion. So in our case, it's the CIO who is the champion of this, and without him, I'm not sure if we could have done this, right? Because you need to have that champion, that resource to go out in March and show that this is worth it, right?
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Are you using VDIs or do you run on the server side?
I'm sorry?
Do you use VDIs or server, like
I don't,
desktop?
I'm not that technical. But no, so we're not in the cloud, we're using desktops, but we have VMs set up. So basically we have each bot runner have their own virtual machine. And then we try to not install too much stuff so that they're not distracted, right? And it's just what they need.
That's exactly my question. It's
Yeah.
the stability of that
Yes.
is a big deal.
Yes, it is a big deal, and we're struggling a little bit with that right now. Like, we don't even have standards of when we're rebooting servers.
Right.
Okay, so other companies have that. So you can't just reboot my server in the middle of my bot running. What are you doing, IT, right? So those are discussions I'm having right now.
Deployments and all that kind of
Yes, exactly. Yep, or 40 client update for VPN last night broke things. So there needs to be a little bit more communication with that network and infrastructure team, and that's something that we're working on right now. But yes, you need to have some kind of stable environment for them. But now it's in the cloud too. We have not looked at that solution yet. Okay, we are over time, but we have 15-minute break. So any other questions? Okay, and then please feel free to come see me, reach out to me. My email address is somewhere on here, maybe. Oh, it was, okay. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. I talk with a lot of people, who get started to just kind of share thoughts and ideas of what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. Yeah, and just good luck with your journey. Thank you.